They know I'm here.
It's all your fault, Mark. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone, and welcome to this panel episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and we got three great minds with us today, plus half a mind from me. So it should be an interesting episode. The genesis for this was I watched Mark on CanadaPoli. Great work over there, by the way, Mark. And he was talking about how there's very few people who actually understand what's going on, and most of the people are just scratching the surface. And I thought, okay, these three gentlemen, they're my go-to guys when I actually want in-depth information. So I thought, why don't we bring them on, and maybe we'll get a half-ass show out of it. So we're going to start it out. We're going to go panel. Mark, Sean, Dale, and I'll start it out. I look at Canada, and increasingly, I don't see a nation. I see like a vassal state. I see a resource colony, and the word is colony, of these interests. It might have started in England, it might have started with the East India Company, but whatever you want to call it, this Western empire, this banking cartel that runs everything in the West has made Canada. They've gotten a foothold here with Mark Carney, and this is sort of their last stand. They're just like, Donald Trump is an existential threat to our interests, and we will sacrifice everything in Canada to stop him, and hopefully he'll be out in 3 years. And when you look at things in that context, all this nonsense that's going on in Canada where they're doing seemingly illogical things makes perfect sense. Mark, there's your jumping off point. What do you think's going
No,
on?
it's perfect. I think we're watching a financial reset. I think Donald Trump represents one side of the coin, and the globalists represented by Mark Carney and Ursula von der Leyen and all of the Keir Starmer, all of the leaders, even Australia, New Zealand. We haven't heard much about them recently, but all of the G7 countries are trying to prevent the monetary reset that Trump is trying to facilitate. And Trump said that he's trying to restore governance of the United States from a shadowy group to the people. And I think that he's actually trying to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to restore the money. So that's why we're seeing silver jump. That's why we're seeing gold jump. And there's a lot more to that. But we're watching not just a financial war. We're watching a full-blown, this is a quiet world war or a silent world war, I think we're watching. And the economic aspect is just one part of it, I think. And going back to your global cabal or cabal of people who are in charge and who are driving this, yeah, they want to disrupt Trump, because if they don't disrupt him, he's going to make it so they can't disrupt him, Trump, after he's out of office, I think. So it's an actual genuine fight. So, Sean?
Yeah. I agree with both what you guys are saying, and I think we've seen a lot of evidence to support that. It was interesting. I heard a comment by Tom Luongo when he referred to Canada as America's Pakistan, and it kind of made things
that's great.
Click. Yeah, and it's just like when you look like this idea that we have of Canada. Like, I served 20 years in the military, and we've got this proud Canadian military heritage. But when you start to look at things historically, right, when the British system that's been in control for a very long time loses control of something, they create an entity right next door to mess with it, right? And looking at a historical context, right, like in 1776, all those people that lost moved up to Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa, and they've been running interference ever since, right? They helped facilitate the assassination of Lincoln. They were involved in the Civil War. We burned down their house in 1812, right? And we've been kind of peas in the pod because of the complete capture of the Americans with the formation of the Fed. And it looks like they are trying to break away with that. You know, like Mark mentioned, this silent war that we're in. And I don't think it's that silent anymore, right? You look at, when Trump introduced his tariffs and Carney started dumping bonds on the market, which Canada had become, like, we sold off all our gold and became the 7th largest holder of American paper to be able to use that as a weapon. And when you look at when this war kicked into high gear and you look at Canada's immigration, right, the two coincide. It's just like, it looks like they're trying to light Canada on fire right now to smoke out the Americans. It's Yeah, it's a pretty crazy situation that's going on, and turning from silent into a hot war in certain locations.
Dale, what do you think?
Well, yeah, there's elements of everything that people were talking about. I think that we just need to go back, look at the Declaration of Independence. They refer to Canada as the province to the north that King George was using as a proxy against the United States. And the founding fathers always said that America was not going to fall from invasion. It was going to fall from infiltration from within, which is what we're seeing right now. There's been a lot of infiltration over a long period of time. There's also been the same infiltration here in Canada. And in order to destroy the United States, which is the benchmark of liberty, well, Canada has to be used as a beachhead to help supply the people that are inside the United States to go ahead and accomplish their ends. And this is what we're kind of seeing here. A lot of people aren't aware to all of that. And when we're looking at the tactics that are being used against the population, they're using colonial tactics that they've used in other places. We're in the middle of a color revolution, and so is the United States. We're further along, and most Canadians are completely unaware of. When I look at all of this division that we're having in this country, I'm seeing psyop after psyop after psyop. Because when we're divided and fighting each other, we can't get to real objective. And most people, they can't get out of themselves. And men have been sissified.
Yeah, feminized.
For the longest time. And they can't stand up and do what's right. They can't separate themselves from their feelings. And this is disastrous.
Yes.
I'll just say something quick. I'll throw it over to you, Mark. The last week, maybe going 4 weeks, it just seems like everything exploded. What's happening in Alberta with Bill 9, and then there's a attack on 14 MLAs. Over here with 1BC, they're trying to get those 2 MLAs recalled. I look on social media, the attacks on the far right fascists in the Conservative Party, that's escalating. You want to say something, Dale?
Yes. Speaking about the whole 1BC thing, now what they're saying about the what they're selling about the residential schools, that needs to be definitely examined, because obviously there's big problems with what's being said. The messaging that they're using is playing into the government narrative. This is my problem, because what they want, we want the truth. The truth is absolutely necessary. But we can't feed in, because the more that we're fighting each other, the more these globalists win.
So sorry, just so I understand, are you saying 1BC is using by going after the narrative?
No, it's the method that they're using. They're not taking. This is a complicated issue that you can't just use sound bites for, right?
Sure.
Because the whole issue with the taking of land, people don't realize where this came from. This can't go back and read the Manitoba Act and the 1871 Constitution Act, and you will understand why they're stealing our land. Because if you have constitutionally protected land that's disregarded, it doesn't matter who it is. Liberty, if you take it from your neighbor, you've taken it from everyone else. And so when we want to deal with the corruption in the government, because the natives are dealing with more corruption in their government than we are, right?
Yeah,
so what you want to do is you want to message so that you separate the people from the government. And this is what I'm not seeing enough of, because yes, the government has lied and they're making a racket out of it. We don't want to push the people to back their corrupt leaders. And
let's go to Mark. Let's let him respond. Go ahead.
Yes,
they're going to wedge them. So yeah. So you're right. So you're saying the messaging is incorrect because they're going after the narrative, and they're leaving themselves open to a wedge where the government comes in and says these people are racist, and then you've got two sides and they can push that wedge. Whereas if they had messaging that you're suggesting that pitted the government versus the people instead of 1BC versus the narrative, then they wouldn't have that potential wedge.
Well, because the way the messaging is coming across is coming like it's attacking the people. And we don't want to make the people be defensive and back the government, because this is what I'm watching because some of the stuff is inflammatory, right? Like they
What's like so
okay.
inflammatory.
I'll break this down quickly.
Just give me an example. Yeah, give me an example of what's inflammatory. Because like
Okay.
they've suggested to remove Truth and Reconciliation Day. They've suggested that there's no reason. Canada was built by a collaboration of people. Like we all work together to build Canada. It wasn't built by colonial white men. It wasn't built by First Nations. It was built by a collective of these groups. Like they have some messaging that is in line with what you're talking about. I just want to understand.
It's okay. For example, some of the people, I'm not saying it's coming directly from the party, but some of the people around them are saying this, is that they're like, there was no genocide. Okay, maybe not at the residential school, but when you look
but that's the claim, that there was a genocide at the residential school, and the answer is there wasn't, and that's the claim. They're saying there were 215 bodies,
yes,
and one BC is saying there is not.
I'm not disputing the fact of because that's a huge dispute, because there's nothing found.
Right.
But people are saying that nothing bad happened across the board. This is what people are saying, because it's not.
That's conflating the message. Like that's not one BC's fault. That's conflating the message.
But
Dale, are you suggesting that they're agents of chaos?
No, I'm not sitting down and saying that. I'm saying that when you're not very clear on something, you're going to have people that are going to take it and use it in a certain manner. You have to sit down and strategize and think that, what is the government doing?
I can jump in, Dale. I know what Dale is trying to say. So if you look at the people on the left, what they're saying is there's 200 plus dead bodies, but what they mean is something bad happened somewhere, so we're going to use this as a battering ram. And then on the people on the right, what they're saying is there are no dead bodies down there. What they mean is we understand this is a Marxist endless revolution, and but what we're saying is not what we mean, and both sides are doubling down.
Because did they find 215 bodies? No, they didn't. This is not rocket science, right? Like, so who put that information out? The government. Why did they do this? To do this very thing that we're seeing now.
We're getting into a one BC conversation. But Mark, what do you want to say?
I just find it interesting. I agree with you. I call it a wizard circle. So we get trapped in wizard circles. Is global warming real? Right? Yes, it's real. No, it's not real. And we argue about that endlessly without addressing the real issue. Why are we being lied to about this thing?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So it's a wizard circle, and like we get that all the time. And like the problem is, people like it because it seems like you're doing something about things, but you don't. You run around in circles doing nothing, getting nowhere. And they love watching you run around in circles doing nothing, getting nowhere. If you address the real issue, which is that the government is lying to us, and they have incentives to lie to us, in that they're collecting taxes, they're sending those taxes to Ukraine. It seems like a black hole. They get kickbacks. There's corruption in Ukraine. We're not allowed to talk about that. Chrystia Freeland says Ukraine's a great investment. We're going to send more money. Corruption investigation, we send more money. It seems weird. So we're not allowed to ask questions. So we get kept in the wizard circle. So they keep their power. The truckers broke out of the wizard circle, and they didn't go far enough. They left when they should have pushed forward and said, like, until you step down, we're not leaving. Until this government falls and we go to an election and these people can vote for us, we're not leaving. Because our government is a uniparty, and they don't work for us. And that's true of all of the G7, except for maybe the United States. And Trump seems to be working to do what he said, but there are a lot of people who disagree with that. And I don't know personally, but it seems like Trump's on one side of this, and the globalists are on another. And Canadians and other affected nations too, England and things like that, are watching their nations economically implode, and we're kept trapped in wizard circles. Even about the economy, kept trapped in wizard circles. You ask the Minister of Finance, and it's the best economy, roaring, everything's effing great. Like, we're going to buy batteries, and we're going to have windmills, and it's going to be great. So it's, Dale, I see it, man. I see it.
Let's go to Sean first. He hasn't said anything in a while. Go ahead.
No, it's interesting hearing other people's impressions. I was involved shortly after the 2019 election. Me and another PPC candidate, we initiated a coup within the BC Conservative Party, and we managed to capture, half the board and the presidency. And through a bunch of dirty pool, they managed to weed us out. And then a group came in and kind of took it over. And we were just trying to turn it into a BC First Freedom Party, right? Because most people are illiterate and have no idea what's going on. It's like, I'm a conservative and they want to vote for blue C. So we were going to give them a blue C, but actually be a BC First Freedom Party. It was, it seemed like a good idea. John Rustad, I met him when shortly after.
I'm sorry.
Left. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your misfortune. Carry on.
Yeah. Thanks. It still hurts. Yeah. Anyway, so John seemed like an okay guy. It's like we needed someone that was ready for prime time, that was experienced and could take the helm. And I supported him, right? And we had a lot of momentum. And then, just weird things started to happen. And there was a lot of people, myself, Corinne Morey, Dr. Stephen Pellick from UBC, Dr. Stephen Malthouse from up north, right? Like that have been on the front lines articulating all the criminality that the government had been engaged in during COVID. We were all shuttled out of the party, right? And replaced by know-nothing pro-climate change liberals. So, when I see these people standing up like Tara Armstrong, right? She was a fresh transplant from Calgary, and she was the head of the nominations committee. So she was involved in the purge. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what these people are. That's why I asked you, like, Dale, is your impression they're agents of chaos? Because they seem to be, saying things that people want to hear, but the way that they're saying them,
It's like I've talked to Jim McMurdy. I agree a lot with what he says. Like, he's a very knowledgeable guy. And
who's this?
Even Jim McMurdy, the guy who got kicked out of school for talking about the teacher. So while obviously we were some things we like on delivery, there's a little bit of an issue, but we both agree that the truth has to be told, and you should be able to question whatever you want. This is fundamental to freedom of speech, because I don't have to like exactly how you do something or the way you go about it, as long as you go in and doing something in an honest manner to go and find out something. Who cares, right? That's really it, because we all have things that are different, and that's fine. The one thing that I really did not like was said was when she mentioned about minorities taking positions, like including men from women, and I was like, I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that as a Canadian who's been here. Me taking a position away from a woman, I mean, you need to be a little bit more specific in the manner in which you're going to say that, because then in doing that, I obviously understand where she's coming from, but calling men DEI as a woman is probably a little bit off base to begin with, because
Is
women
Dallas
benefit.
Brody?
I think it was her. Women benefit from DEI more than men do by a country mile. It's not even close, right?
I'll share my opinion on what's going on, and I'll throw it to Mark. April election, everybody put their faith behind the PPC, and they got destroyed. And then they put their faith behind Daniel Smith, and now she's like on the fence. So now they're putting their faith behind 1BC. I don't know how much longer this is going to go. If 1BC turns out to be a dud, are we going to get like a one Nova Scotia? Is this going to go on forever?
I mean, do I like what they're doing to shake up things? Obviously, because there needs to be some kind of change, right? But this is where political strategists come in, right? And you should have the right people strategizing, because they can do a lot of good if they just tweak certain things to get the truth out, let the truth do its work, and not, I mean, yes, you want to be edgy, but you want to just make sure that you're gathering as many people as you can, because right now we can't shoot any of our troops. We can't. We just can't. We're in a bad situation.
Mark?
Yeah, I like what Dallas Brody's doing. I really do. I like the messaging. I like what she's doing. I think she's calling out the lies that have been allowed to be unleashed. We have holidays based on lies. the Truth and Reconciliation Day is built on a foundation of lies. It doesn't make any sense. I'm glad that she's talking about it in the legislature. I'm glad that she's talking about it the way she is. What they're going to do to her is the same thing that they did to the PPC and to Lisa, what's her name from Pickering, the counselor Lisa. She's very chipper. But she worked for months without pay because the people voted to not pay her because she wouldn't bow down to their insanity. And so like having people speak out is necessary in order to shake things up, as you said. And I think that maybe their messaging could be better, but at the same time, we need to actually be playing with the language and with what's going on. The circumstances backdropping the residential schools are such that the Canadian public and Christian churches have been burned down, and Canadian public has been blamed for something that they never did. The Christian churches were in charge of things until the 1960s, and then John Chrétien took over, and we celebrate that guy. Like, he's a former prime minister. He committed genocide. He was overseeing this genocidal residential schools from the 1969, and then progressive governments after that oversaw genocidal schools. They had swimming pools. And like the crash of 1929, I had a First Nations person message me because I was like, this is effed up. What's going on? Like, I don't agree with any of this. I don't wish ill on anybody, but I don't believe this line. And they emailed me and they said, listen, like in 1929, when the stock market crashed, a lot of First Nations people had a reliance on rich Americans buying pelts and things like that. And then the money dried up because the stock market crashed and they had nowhere to go, and their kids were starving. So they dropped the kids off at the residential schools. And these things were done. This was done not through coercion, but through necessity. Fast forward. I worked in residential treatment centers. I worked and have a huge knowledge of inside knowledge of family and children's services. Right now, if people think that you are abusing your kid, or if people think that you are not treating your child in a way that is commiserate with a level of society that maybe all these DEI people wouldn't agree with, they'll come and take your kid. They will come in and remove your child. And people say, oh, it's genocide. They're taking the children. They do it now. They do it today, right now. And people have no fucking clue. And it's crazy, man. So like,
let me jump in.
I think that 1BC is doing a great job, and I want to make sure that's really clear.
We'll go to you, Dale. This is turning into the 1BC hour. Sean, take it any way you want. You can either talk about the residential schools or the family law thing, since that's close to your heart right now.
Yeah. So I can be a correspondent for you guys because I'm supposed to have a sit down with Dallas Brody here shortly. So I'll come back with my impressions. Yeah. Anyways, this. I've worked with Indigenous communities up north for years, as a medic and as a nurse. And I see a legacy of socialism, not of residential schools. Mm-hmm. Bad things happen at schools. Bad things are happening today at schools, right? I wouldn't like to argue which is worse. But you look at, shortly after they shot Kennedy and Johnson came in with his war on poverty and, created a welfare state, destroying, Black communities in the States and lower socioeconomic groups. We did the same thing up here with Indigenous communities and just throw tons of money at them, right? We've got the Paternalistic Indian Act that forbids people from having private property. And I talk with the old timers and they're like, we used to have beautiful farms, and Fox Lake, and a community that I used to work in, they had a horse breeding program that was second to none in North America. And now it's done. These communities are done. And it's socialism. It's complete reliance on the government for absolutely everything. And there's no incentive to do anything for yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't. And for people that actually do take advantage of some of the opportunities that they're afforded, which are incredible. Like if you have 1 ounce of ambition and want to go to school, like everything, full rides paid for, everything. And then you have some of these people, and they take advantage of these things, and they go back to their communities. They're so ostracized by their own communities. They call them apples, red on the outside, white on the inside, right? And after 6 months, they're like, screw this. I'm just going back to the world and going to get mine. And what a resource that's lost to those communities. So it's these problems, have been going on for a long time. They're not going to be solved overnight. And putting up these sensational ideas and mythologies to paint, to disparage our heritage. This is the destruction of any national coherence in our jurisdiction. Trudeau, what was one of the first things he did, after lowering the age of consent of sodomy and legalizing marijuana? He said Canada has no national identity, and we're a post-national state. Right? This is about the destruction of identity and bringing in all these different groups, and creating friction between them. UNDRIP, you see a lot of the things, the strategies that they use. This is going on everywhere. This is going on with the Abos in Australia, and the Maori in New Zealand, and everywhere. This is a concerted plan to create friction between different ethnic groups.
I just want to kind of just jump in there. I think that we have to keep in mind that the type of people that are in government now, they were always in government at some point, just in smaller numbers. And you can, when you begin to look at the history and pay attention to the mindset and the ideology of the people today, you will see it throughout history. Now, when you go back in and you look at Canada from its inception, and you look at the history of the Métis were basically a forerunner of what was going to happen. If they really wanted to educate the Indigenous to more of the Canadian way, it would have made more sense to use the Métis, who were multilingual, understood Aboriginal languages, understood the culture, as well as they understood English and French. And they were also, because of the Scottish and the Catholic, they had more Christian leanings because of that, rather than the tribal languages. But they didn't like them because they were the ones that were beginning to unify the tribes. When you look at what happened at Batoche, and you look at what they had with the provincial government, the Métis had land, and they had them sectioned out in Manitoba. They offered them a size of land the size of PEI. Most of them were actually under American jurisdiction. In order to do that, they had to renounce that, sever their ties with the United States, got that in the Constitution Act in 1871, and then they were never given the land. And then they came in and they passed an act for the settlers in 1872, and then they gave the settlers the land. So if you have constitutionally protected land in the Constitution Act 1871 that was never given, that set the precedent for everyone. Once you detach people from the land and their livelihood, you're creating the circumstances for them now to be more dependent. This is how they were able to do this system. When you look at the numbered treaties, which came in from Rupert's Land, when came into Canada because they were trying to go over the Western expansion, they did it very differently. The Indian Act technically should not count to any natives outside of where it was in Rupert's Land, because the treaties that were signed beforehand, Canada has no power to actually change or alter them. They changed the definition of Indian to be, and the treaties for the numbered treaties to be on a racial thing for the Indian Act, and then they cut the Métis from that so they wouldn't have any land rights, disenfranchised them. The United States were doing the same thing on lockstep. So they were looking at this as a security issue and then dealing with it and putting them into this dependency. And this globalist mindset has been working for a long time. Then they brought the Marxism, and this is what they did with the Indian Act. They created socialist, communist reserves where the Indians don't own any land, and that was it. And then they pushed this in the Black communities in the United States, and you watch this happening in lockstep in both countries, and now they're bringing en masse to everyone.
There's a lot in there. Mark, you go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I saw a video in late 21 late 21, I think it was. And he was saying that the plan for everybody is the reservation, the Indian Act, reservations everywhere. That's the plan for everybody. And so we also exist. Basically, our timeline is zero at the Second World War. The end of the Second World War, that's kind of like the First World War and what happened in the First World War, how that informs the Second World War. That's kind of a prequel. But most people reference like the Second World War as our timeline. And since then, the G7 nations have come in, and including the United States, and brought in different socialist programs. And yes, they roll it out to one population first because everybody wouldn't accept it, and then they roll it out to other populations as they gain more power. But NHS was brought into England post World War II. I think it was our Canadian healthcare system was again post World War II. I think it was in the 57 or something like that. And
I think Tommy Douglas brought it in before then.
Was it before World War II? When was it?
I think it was between the two world wars.
Okay, that still kind of fits because they're trying to push this. They're trying to push this socialism, and they can't just say, "Oh, you're communist now," but we are communist now. Like that's how kind of we live. We are the taxation is so high. We're spending so much money to put up in hotels, drug addicts, foreigners, criminals, people who've illegally crossed into the country on a false refugee status. We give them healthcare. We pay for all of this stuff. That's communist socialism. And like, we're not supposed to notice, we're not supposed to talk about it. And the plan, I mean, I don't want to get too woo or anything like that, but we keep going through resets. Every time we realize what's going on, they kind of smash us with a war and then reset the timeline, give us a couple of years of economic prosperity on their bullshit fiat currency. And then they start building the road back to communist full control NWO one world government. Like, I think they realized in the Second World War, they couldn't rule the world from Germany. They couldn't have Germany as the seat of power because people wouldn't listen to a country. They're just a little country in Europe. Why are we listening to them, right? So they needed something else. So they moved from Germany to supranational organizations like the WHO, League of Nations, and United Nations. So it's concerning, right? It's just ridiculous, man.
It is.
You look at what we're talking about right now, right? We've just been talking about residential schools. Why are we talking about this? Right? Like this is a like, why is that? Why aren't we talking about the genocide that's happening today?
Right now.
In our nation, right? Why are these people talking about that? You look at the incidence of cancer since they've rolled out the vaccines in this country, in all Western countries, it's absolutely insane. They have killed more people with MAID than we lost in World War II, right? You look at immigration,
yes, by a lot, and abortion too,
and abortion too. Yeah, we live in a nation that celebrates infanticide, right? We have a public education system that sexualizes, confuses, and encourages the mutilation of our children.
Yes, right? And that's somehow controversial to say that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah, the leading cause of death from 15 to 59-year-olds in our nation is opium overdose. And we're dumping massive amounts of opium on the streets, calling it, safe supply. Safe supply. Like, this is so batshit crazy and inverted. And what are they talking about, right? Like, things that happened 100 years ago when all this shit is so large and in your face and happening in real time. And everyone's just ignoring it, and all these people. So that's why I asked, like, if you think they're agents of chaos, because it's like, why aren't they addressing the things that all the people that were kicked out of the party were addressing? Right? Why aren't we? And like, just before we came on, like, I asked if you guys have seen that, the speech given by the new NDP guy. They are laughing in our faces. These mandates that they rolled out a few years ago, they have killed more Canadians than all the wars in our history combined. And they are laughing about it.
I agree that we should be paying attention to what's happening here. And I do a lot of work with victims of human trafficking, people who have their kids trafficked and so forth, and all that kind of stuff. Been doing that after coming out and whistleblowing with COVID. And I mean, I've seen human trafficking for most of my life. I grew up in Winnipeg. Winnipeg is like a cesspool. They would have like, you'd see like, I mean, 2-year-old kids in the middle of walking on diapers in the middle of like in the middle of the night, right? And stuff like that. And they had like kids selling themselves right behind Child and Family Services biggest building in Winnipeg, and they did nothing. It's just corrupt like crazy.
Wow.
But when you put what people are, the take that people talk about residential schools, it's wrong. Period. I look on both sides, and they're talking about it wrong.
But it's being used to direct our attention away from the important issue. Like we can go over it, and I understand what you're saying, but the residential schools is not the important piece here, right? The important piece is the government is lying to us about multiple things, and they're saying, "Hey, don't look at that. Look at this on the laser pointer. Oh, look at this. Look at Donald Trump. Look at this. Look at that." I don't care. I don't care, man. The thing is, people have the opportunity in Canada to make what they want of themselves, and there's so many opportunities. Sorry, man. I don't
actually what I'm talking about. When you look at predators, and I deal with this like crazy, when you isolate a child from their parents, you give predators more access. This is what people are not talking about. I'm not sitting down and saying that everything was bad, but when you do this, every situation you see this in our society, this is happening. But this is what we're not talking about. Nobody's talking about this, because if you start looking at it from that lens, you will see what they're doing in our schools now. When they're isolating the kids from the parents, they're going to have abuse. Now, you want to know where the abuse is happening and being able to spot it everywhere. So I'm saying down, if you look at the patterns throughout history where they've happened, because you look at what happened with the hockey players. Look how many kids, when they were doing hockey and they were isolated from their parents, they got raped. This happens all the time. What happens, you're isolating the kids, they're forcing them with this LGBTQ. We have to have an objective look, because I don't care what the truth is. I want to know what it is. I want to know who is doing it, and that's it, right?
Yeah, I hear you. And sending your kids to state-run schools is what everybody does, and it's not great because the state is able to indoctrinate them with LGBT. And like, you make a really interesting point. We are getting our panties in a twist about historical injustices done at the hands of people who were separated from their parents in residential schools, while another injustice is unfolding in our current schools that people are well aware of. Like, there's a high school in Guelph, and I took a picture of it, and I've been trying to get a meeting with the education minister in Ontario for years, through 3 different ministers. Nobody will even return a phone call to talk about gender ideology in the school, in which Doug Ford promised that he would not get rid of. And so I took a picture that said, this washroom, it was a general washroom, like everybody could use it. And it says, this washroom, it's on my Twitter, this washroom is for use by girls or people who identify as female. And it's like, what in the world? And so, like, we are watching this unfold while falling all over ourselves about this historical injustice. And I find that so interesting.
It's not the most important issue right now. It isn't.
Well, it's just one of those things where the government is keeping us. Foster kids are experimented on with medications, things like the COVID vaccine given to foster kids at a higher rate than kids who are not in the foster system. Do you know what I'm talking about? You said you had history in family and children's services?
My oldest daughter was taken by Child and Family Services,
right?
And she was ritualistically raped in care.
That's terrible, man. Yes. And so kids who don't have parents to advocate for them are supposed to have this system stand in for them, and people think that this system is flawless, and they think that there's nobody in it who's bad, and but like schools, when you have access and you can have one-on-one meetings with kids and things like that, good people are attracted to that career, but also bad people are attracted to that career, right? And so, like, again, I try and break out of wizard circles in order to focus on the government is lying about everything from climate change to residential schools and everything in between. And like, residential schools is a nuanced thing that can we could talk about residential schools as just a subject for hours and hours and hours and hours and get to a better understanding, but maybe not solve any problems, right? And like, I want the fastest line back to a sane country that we can get. You know what I mean? And so like,
What
Can I realign this? Because I don't want to. We're getting stuck in the details.
Can
Are
I
we?
just
Sorry.
say just one thing quickly, just before you go, is one quick thing. The way my take on the residential schools, they weren't perfect. Something happened. We need to find out what the truth of it is, but that is not the most pressing issue right now. And the amount of attention that it's getting, I don't agree with.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about, Dale. I'll throw it to you, Sean, since you're sitting there quietly. Like they pick on topics and they run with it that are absolutely like meaningless.
George Floyd.
George Floyd is one. The residential schools in Kamloops, that's kind of another one.
Yep.
Because it's like, come on, man. I don't even have to say it. But like, Orange Man Bad is another one. This made up fascist elbows up, this fascist thing. The state is picking on topics that it'll just chew through people's time. It's very easy for one side to dig in and go further to their side, and the same thing with the other side, and nothing gets accomplished. So like the four of us, we can't get any truth out. So Sean, where the hell is this coming from? Like, is this the city of London? They have daily meetings and they put this stuff out?
Well, you look at, so what is a psychological operation, right? You identify a specific target audience and figure out lines of persuasion to get them smoking what you're growing or behaving the way that you want them to behave, right? Are these issues bringing people together or driving wedges, right? Is every issue that we talk about on the news bringing people together or driving wedges? And you look at this, like they've been doing this for so long. They're so good at it. And you look at our country coming apart at the seams right now, right? Bringing in massive amounts of people from sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, India specifically, and telling us that diversity is our strength. Well, it definitely is not, right? And history shows this. And they're very good at this. And we focus on these things, their control. And you two guys, you were PPC candidates with me. You know how well they are at controlling the passage of information in this country, and what they did to Max and the PPC, and us as independents running in the last provincial election here. Their ability to exclude people from the conversation is incredible, right? They did it to Ron Paul in the States. They did it to Max up here. If they'll try ridicule. If that doesn't work, right, they'll try slander, and if that doesn't work, they'll just exclude you from the conversation. And it's so effective. And they want people talking about things that don't matter about anything, right? But our hot button topics, allow a certain group to take umbrage and embrace this victim mentality, and the other group saying this is bullshit. I didn't do anything. What are you taking things from me for? Yep. Right? This is about division. And they're really, really good at it. Yep. And, as long as we don't address the imminent threat that we face, because this is a 10,000 front war, right? Like, it isn't just residential schools. It isn't just abortion. It's too big for the human mind to comprehend. And we need to focus on the things that are actually dangerous to us, right? Because people, their threat analysis are way off. Right? Like, look, we've got a large percentage of the population that are terrified, of COVID-19, cow farts, and systemic racism. When
they will get you. Yeah.
Right. When their country is falling apart right in front of their eyes.
Dale, you go ahead, and then there's some good questions I want to go to.
Yeah, just racism is a personal choice. Anybody who says anything otherwise, they're an idiot. I'm sorry. People make their own decisions. Like, it's not a system. It's just whatever. Anyway, when it's speaking about imminent threats, Pastor Derek Reimer that got arrested.
Mhm.
I was at the court hearing that he was at last week. The judge completely disregarded the law, did not fit the elements of the crime, and then threatened him with prison to capitulate his religious beliefs because he was there with the drag queen story hour. He had about a 90-second conversation with a woman and one social media post. Oh, sorry. And then they said it met the threshold for criminal harassment, which is not even close, remotely close, because you need to have a repeated history. And a lot of the times it takes some period of time to do this. So they wanted him to apologize, and he refused to because it's his religious belief. So she breached him. And I looked at what she was doing. When I look at how things are going here with the judicial system, and I just dropped off a petition for redress that Derek signed, Artur Pawlowski signed, myself and my daughter. Canadians are being tortured and subjected to cruel and unusual punishment by the government. Artur was tortured. They could have killed him. Same with me and my daughter. Right? They're doing this across the board. Look at Dr. Melvin Richer. When he talked up about the spike proteins, they tortured him. They drugged him. And they destroyed him. And then when you look at Bill C8 and Bill C9 coming down, C8, they can cut off all your telecommunications, you're done. C9, well, they can put you in jail for whatever makes them feel bad, and they're taking away the religious exemption. So if you say the Bible says that this cross-dressing nonsense is a sin, well, guess what? You're going to prison. Guess what's also on the rise in prisons? MAID. And then when they only need verbal consent, what do you think is going to start happening to Canadians? There's no controls for this. And you have to look at what's the worst case scenario. They start exterminating us. That's the reality that we're facing.
Human trafficking.
Anything, Mark, Sean, you want to say before moving on?
The government will use the prisoners to bolster the organs they sell to China. It'll be an organ operation.
Yeah, at least it'll make some money for a change.
No, not for us though. Not for us. It'll be the Chinese. They'll figure out a way where we have to pay to send the organs.
We'll pay the taxes on the organs.
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that.
There'll be some kind of something rather.
They got the clean Uyghur stuff over there.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting banned. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a topical comment. I'm going to go to some of the comments here, and we'll just go around robin. Canada Slave says, thank Christ people are seeing this. How do we get men like this into politics? It's funny. The three of us actually ran for the PPC. We couldn't get in. So we're still taking donations, though, personal donations, if you want to.
I ran for the Buffalo Party in Saskatchewan.
Oh, all four of us. I didn't know that. So we're politicians. Don't trust that Sean Taylor guy, says RB Ham. He's an anti-Semite. They're friends. Okay, what about this? Let's go with this, Mark. I'll throw it to you first. The problem is that Trump is being hamstrung by the tech oligarchs and is being dragged down into the swamp.
Yeah. The $140 million, what's it called? $140 million fine for Exxon from the EU. Vance is supposed to be dealing with that. What happens with Trump being... Yeah, it's a multifaceted war. At this point in time, I think we're all just along for the ride, either because I don't know that anything we do short of a freedom convoy-esque thing, and I'm not advocating for violence, I'm not advocating for freedom convoy or anything like that, but short of the population getting that frustrated and then acting out in that kind of way again, I don't know that anything we do day to day is going to change the trajectory of what happens short and medium term. And yeah, so
Sean,
maybe I'm wrong, but
this is I guess it's coming to, do you believe that we face an existential threat? Right,
we're already past the point of no return, I think.
Yeah,
personally.
At some point, it's like in aviation, right? There comes a certain part of the dive. It doesn't matter how hard you pull back on the stick, the plane's hitting the ground. And I think we passed that a while ago. And I think they've made their all-in move, right, in 2021 with the deployment of these shots. How effective that's going to turn out to be remains to be seen. So far, it's looking like it's becoming more effective every day. Is Trump the guy that's gonna, are the white hats in control and we're just watching a movie and strangers are going to show up and give us freedom and money? Well, that's not historically how things have turned out. And all of a sudden, right, like we're pretending that Trump's the real deal. Like I think Justin Trudeau, and I've told you this before, Payment, like I think Justin Trudeau was the best guy that we ever had, right? Because it was so obvious what he was. Like he even woke up liberals. And for me, I like things that are obvious. And we watched him do his little, light bulb dance and dress up in costumes around the world. And then down south, we had the Joe and Kamala show. And everyone knew it's like, this is insane. Like this guy doesn't know what room he's in and he's the leader of the free world. Like these people are Muppets, right? Someone else is pulling the strings. But now Donald Trump's the real guy and Mark Carney's the real guy. And it looks like they may have, increased the quality or gone into different level of management for the front men. I don't know, but what is happening on the ground? What is happening on the ground is they are moving the chains towards their end goal. And their end goal is, you just read their books, listen to their speeches, they tell us exactly where this is going, like a decrease, a substantial decrease in the standard of living, total economic control, and a lot less of us. So one of two things is going to happen is they're going to be successful in their goals, or we're going to stop them. That's the only two outcomes that I see. And if you're thinking that, your team that is sanctioned and allowed by the powers that be is the one that's going to get you there, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed. This is always been done historically by young men with fire. And I don't think this time is any different.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying here. We do need people to do things. It's not about this one person or not. It doesn't matter how well-intentioned any leader is. When you look at the amount of corruption and people going in there, it's impossible for one person to do. So anybody who thinks that one person is just going to ride in and their name is not Jesus, you ain't saving the day by yourself. You need people to get up and do something. And that's the problem where we're at. We need people to get up and be motivated. Most people think that they can't do anything. And that is the biggest problem that we have. The greatest, the chains of slavery are no longer on our hands. It's in our minds. And the greatest form of slavery is the illusion of freedom. We're not in a cage. We can go to work and do all these things. People still have their houses, but you're a wage slave. You have change of circumstance. Most people can't last 2 weeks or a month without being on. If they lost their income within a month, they'd be on the street. So we're in one of the worst situations that we are. We need to stand up, and we need men to go back to being men. And honestly, find God, because cowardice is at an all-time high. Most people are hiding because they're afraid of what's going to happen. They think that if they yield to the tyranny, that it's going to work, but that never works. That never works. It didn't work out in Nazi Germany. It didn't work out with Stalin. It never worked out anywhere. So, either we do it now or it's just going to get worse. And then people will try it later.
My 2 cents. I'm willing to give Trump some wiggle room. I really want to believe that he's one of the good guys and he's taken on the high table or whatever. But I've been wrong pretty much every time before.
I just want to quick. I agree with you, Payman. I hope there's a good guy in this battle. I hope there's a good guy in the fight. Fundamentally, Ryan, I think he said that there's not going to be a here, or Sean, sorry, not Ryan.
Yeah, I get his name wrong all the time.
Yeah, man, I'm terrible with names. People who watch my show know, but I don't think that Trump's going to deliver a. If Canada gets absorbed by the United States, culturally, that's kind of a win, but it's an overall loss because we lose control of our country. But do we have control of our country now? Right. So like, I don't know that that's what's going to happen anyway, but I don't think Trump winning in the United States does anything for Canada other than gives us an indication that we can unseat these people. And as far as, so like, that's why I hope he wins, because that'll say that we could do something.
So
And
hold on to that thought. That's the next question. The indie media East Coast says they don't want us talking about the merger with the USA, so they throw all sorts of BS like ostriches and crap at us. We need to get over Canada. Mark, what do you go on?
Yeah, well, just if Trump is able to unseat whatever kind of puppets are pulling the strings and restores the ability to actually have a population that chooses its leaders and chooses its direction, then that'll be an indication that we can do that too. And if it does fall down and the corruption does touch Canada, then we could have a reason to even politically act, right? But that doesn't mean that it's easy, and that doesn't mean that it'll get done. If we do merge with America, that's the straightest line back to sanity. But for how long? Until Trump is out of office, and then after that, all bets are off. You get a Biden-esque guy in, and it's not so good. But I don't know how our system gets fixed either. There are huge problems with our system, and a huge amount of embedded liberal senators, bureaucrats that are liberal, a huge bloated bureaucracy that is incentivized. 25% of people, I think 25% is the employment number for the government. And so like, that's a huge amount of voting people, and then add their spouses, which not all of them work for the government. And then all of a sudden you've got a lot of people who understand which way the bread is buttered. You know, like they understand that their climate change office is kind of bullshit, but they like the Christmas party, right? So they're gonna play along. One of the other things that I just want to talk about quick before we pass it on is, oh my gosh, I'm so bad with names. How come the names disappear? You were saying it's terrible. You were saying
onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah, for crying out loud. You're saying that we can't do it, like people who don't stand up, and like it's cowardice, and you can't affect change if you don't stand up and try, and so on and so forth. One of the problems that I have is I've done that. I've tried. I've run for school board. I've run PPC. I've been prominent in my community, and like I worked in schools. I worked with troubled kids. I have involvement. I worked for Family and Children's Services. So like, I should be an ideal candidate, and it was for school board, which I ran for as well. I didn't win, and I didn't win for PPC. And so like I've tried, and I through trying, I realized that the game is rigged. And so like, one of the things that I don't like playing a rigged game. So if I'm going to go and try and do something, I'm going to try and do it in a way that my strategy is going to succeed. So like there's nothing stopping me from building a website that makes $10,000 a month. You know what I mean? Like there's websites all over the place that make $10,000 a month. It's not cowardice that prevents me from doing that. Maybe there's a knowledge gap. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of things that go into that. Same with running. And then further than that, it gets more complicated because the game actually is rigged. And so like, it's one of those things where I want that to be a part of the strategy. I'm not saying people should do nothing. I'm saying people should adopt that knowledge into their strategy.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody wants to play rigged game. But when we're looking at the way that our system is set up, they're getting us to go in about that much when we have this much, right? Yeah. So we have to not play their game. We have to change the way the game is played, right? And this is what we have to do, because there are a lot of things that can be exploited to our advantage. I hate using that word, but we can use these things to our advantage and in order to get what we want. And sometimes it means doing things outside of the box that, while they're definitely lawful, it's just something that isn't done. Because when I look at the history, the way our system works. We do not use the Canadian system in the way that it was designed. We, right now, the way our judicial branch is run, they are ruling this country by decree.
Yeah, oh yeah,
They
are.
have
I agree.
they have struck down the Constitution, and they're using the judiciary to pass laws and write laws by their decisions and the way that they reinterpret the Constitution, like that living tree doctrine nonsense. That is garbage. Judges don't have the authority to do that. They apply the Constitution to the law, and they interpret that to make sure that it is in line with the Constitution. Constitution is not supposed to change. You can change and make it adapt to whatever society or age you're in, then you're going to have problems. And this is where we've gone way off course. That's why they do whatever they want.
I just spent the last 2 weeks in the BC Supreme Court with a buddy of mine for his divorce hearing.
Oh my gosh.
And it did not go well. And he's probably going to go to jail. So here's a guy who's got no history of criminal record. He's a dentist. Him and his wife wound up in different realities during COVID-19.
Oh, no.
So adultery came into play. She found another guy and blew up the marriage, and he didn't respond well. And he has been made a criminal because of conditions placed on him by an activist judicial system, right?
Uh-huh.
So, like, I've worked government for most of my life, in the military and in healthcare. And like, have you ever asked yourself why, a quarter of a century after 9/11, all these, I don't know how many flag officers there are in the US, like, no one's figured this out, right? We're starting to talk about it now, but why has nothing been done about this? Right. And these things that we see in the system that are so obviously bad. And, we're actually in last month was family law awareness month. Like, there's all these activist groups who, have been victims of this entity that's been created to destroy families. Right. How do you do that? How do you find the judges? The system is so utterly captured. Right? You don't get to advance unless you're on the team, right? And while you're, anytime you get involved in these institutions, you're vetted at an early stage, right? And there'll be a scenario where you're like, no way, this is wrong, right? We got to do the right thing here, right? And it's like, okay, we know this guy's identified himself, right? Whereas another one is like, this guy's shady as shit. We need to promote him immediately.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Like, this is completely controlled, and people don't ascend in this system unless they're a part of it.
Unless they're ruthless. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I guess we can end it. It's been 1 hour. I just want to end it with something Mark said in his daily, whatever your podcast you often do. You said that the government, they know that they can win elections indefinitely by, rigging the polls. But they're afraid of the court of public opinion. I don't know how you phrased it, but like the four of us talking.
Yep.
Our avenues for fighting back, they're getting less and less. And if Bill C-8-9 pass, I don't know what's going to happen. And quite frankly, I'll throw it to you in a second, Dale. I welcome this. I mean, I've tried everything possible to wake up the Canadian people, and they're not waking up. This might be something like the reality has to smash them in the face for them to wake up.
But they still won't wake up. Like, look at Iran, look at North Korea. I'm not trying to be a black pill. I'm just trying to say, oh my gosh.
I know, Mark. Go ahead, Dale.
Sorry.
Most people probably won't wake up until after it's done. And that's just the reality of the matter. You have to go with what you have here. Just speaking about stuff that was being done, like kind of going back to what Derek Reimer and so forth. Me, my daughter, a couple of other people, we went out and we served a petition for redress of grievances on the MLA for Derek's riding. I can't remember his name. He's the Minister of Advanced Education in Alberta. He didn't come out. His one of his aides came and took it from him. But then we also went to the MLA for Arthur Pawlowski's riding, who was an NDP. She came out and talked, and she got very, very much violated because she was trying to explain to me how she couldn't do this. And I was like, yes, you can. And then because me and my daughter actually filed torture complaints with the RCMP, and now they're not doing anything, we're like, you're violating the torture convention. What they did to Arthur Pawlowski is torture. What they did to Derek was torture. So we're going now to the Legislative Assembly under Article 13, which gives us the right to complain about torture. And there's a systematic demonstration of 3 separate people to do this, and are just going to make us think about it, right? Derek Reimer got a lot of attention from being arrested. Like, millions of people watched his videos being shared all over the internet and so forth. This is a time that we need to start capitalizing and using things that we can, and going and putting these people publicly. Because if anybody watches that NDP, I was hitting all of the points that they talked about, and she was trying to brush it off. People need to see that the people that they're voting for are lying to them and get pissed off, and then keep doing something. Because if we don't do something now, we're going to get buried. And so just leave that at that.
Any last comments?
Thanks for having me on, man. It's been fun. Nice to meet you, Dale and Sean. Sorry, I'm terrible with names.
You too.
All right, yeah, it's nice meeting you guys. I guess just one like this is a little dark, residential schools and Uyghur
Sorry.
parts, and all. There's a lot of black pills going around right now, and I get it, and I think everyone in this room gets it. Like, we've all been in this fight for a while, and it is discouraging. But at the same time, I'm filled with an incredible amount of hope. There is an awakening occurring. And yes, most of us would like it to be, further reaching than it is at this point. But we are seeing glimpses of things that might be happening. Like I said, I don't know what's going on. You see these things in Venezuela and Ukraine and all over the place. And it's just like, there is evidence, I think, that good things are happening and the chains are being moved for our side. Whether it's real or not, I don't know. But we're getting closer, and this is happening in our time. You look at the amount of ground that we've covered in the last few years. These people that are rolling this out, I think we need to let them know that accountability is coming. Whether it's at the hands of an angry mob, or they just get sick of looking themselves in the mirror, or at the end of this existence, when you go for your review, at some point, you're going to have to account for your actions here. And, I'm excited. I hope I get to see a little bit of that. Whether we do or not, it remains to be seen. But, thanks for having us, Payman. I think what you do, the conversations that you have on your show are incredibly important. And, we don't get the boost that all their agents seem to, but people are hearing, and I'm running into them all the time. So it was a pleasure meeting you guys. I hope we get to talk again, and God bless. Enjoy the show.
I just want to end it with a great comment from Andre Milosh. You can't wake up corpses. This is his view on waking up the people. All right. Well, if you guys want to, we'll just go around. If you can just say how people can follow you, Mark.
Oh, sure. Head over to CanadaPoli.com. I do a daily show, and it used to be 43 minutes. Now it's usually an hour and a bit. And I go over all of the stuff that happened yesterday. And the whole premise of the show is, can you believe this? So that's basically it. But thanks for having me on, Payman.
Anytime. Sean, I think you're a hermit. You don't want anybody contacting you?
Yeah, no, I'm out in the forest chopping firewood. Stock up on ivermectin, vitamin C, and food stuff.
Yep.
All right, and Dale.
Get a greenhouse farm.
Get a greenhouse, yeah.
Yeah, you can follow me at DJS Richardson or on the Karis Project on X, Rumble, and all the different. Well, there's a link. There's a. Wow, my brain is so slow today. All my links / the Karis Project. You'll find all the stuff there. come out and support a good cause. We're just trying to teach people how to use the laws and the existing system to defend themselves, right? And the more of us that can do that, the better, right? Because the more people that stand up, you're going to agitate the question, which is what we need to do, because we basically are rekindling a new reformation, because we have to start something small, but it'll eventually ignite into something much bigger.
And as for me, at 3 o'clock today, 3 p.m. Pacific time, me, Andre Beloche in the comments, Timothy Knight, we're going to be interviewing Miss Kathy Drake. She's the one that she used the word groomer, and they're trying to use lawfare on her. This is a serious issue because it's a massive censorship case, and it's gonna set a precedent. You catch it on my X at Payment Ascari 451.
Who's coming after her?
Sorry?
Who's coming after her?
I almost feel afraid to say it. I'm worried that the guy will come after me. It's an attorney, a specific type of attorney, and he supports the. I can't even say what it is. He's suing her for $100,000 just because she used the word groomer.
Is this in Canada?
This is in Canada. This is in Alberta. They want to set a precedent in Alberta.
Oh, you should just send me that off. Like,
Yeah, you're in Alberta. You've used the word groomers before.
I will, let me know who this person is.
I'll let you know in DM,
because I don't even care at this point. Take me to court.
Nice try there, Sean. Trying to get me into trouble. I see what you did there.
Right.
I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much for coming on.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.